Extra special thanks to Cincy Music for co-hosting My Favorite Album is Terrible. For the best in what Cincinnati's amazing local music scene has to offer, be sure to follow them on Instagram at Cincy Music, that's Cincy with a Y, on Facebook at cincymusic.com, also Cincy with a Y, and on their official website, www.cincymusic.com. Here's the show. All right, everybody. Hi. Welcome to My Favorite Album is Terrible. My name is Kent Mulcahy with the Cincinnati Public Library, and what we are going to do every other week on Thursday at 8 o'clock on this show, we are going to take a look at an album that critics or otherwise fans of a given artist just did not like. We are not talking about guilty pleasures. I want to make that distinction. To me, a guilty pleasure is something that you might love, but you know deep down in your heart it's not good. That's not what we are talking about. What we're talking about tonight are whoever picks the album. They not only like the album, they honestly do think it's good, and they think it is a good representation of that artist. So the format of the show is every week a host is going to pick an album that they want to discuss and defend against the world and prove everybody wrong. Then a guest, or in some cases guests, will join them, and they will have to discuss that album with them and have to listen to every single second of it. Now, the twist here is that if a guest listens to an album and they do not enjoy it, they are not allowed to say anything negative about the album. What is allowed is they can come up with snarky, backhanded, passive-aggressive compliments that at least sound positive. Now, at any point, the host can jump in and overrule a comment that was perceived to be negative and have it stricken from the record and make that guest rephrase what they said into something that sounds positive. So everything that we talk about on this show is going to be free to you with your Cincinnati Public Library card. Most of it's going to come from our streaming services, Hoopla and Freegal, but every now and then, if the notion hits us, we might just dive into our vast vinyl collection. But either way, everything's going to be available to you. Now, on that note, always check the comment section. We are going to put links to everything that we talk about in the comment section, so you can just go in there and put a direct hold on it with your library card. Speaking of the comments, join in. If you have opinions on the album that we're talking about, I really want this to be a back and forth type thing. So please jump in and let us know how you feel about the album. But the same rules apply to you. You can't say anything negative. Try to, even if you want to insult it, find a creative way to say it positively. And again, while you're in the comments section, if you enjoy what you're seeing, give us a like. And very importantly, if you know any music fans out there, share this with them. We really want to make this an interactive kind of back and forth thing. So please, please, please give us a share and help us get the word out about this. All right, so before I introduce and bring on our guests, let's make the big unveil for the album that we are going to be discussing tonight. The album that we have picked tonight is the album Oxnard by the artist Anderson Paak. Now, Anderson Paak, just a very, very, very brief biography of Anderson Paak. He is a West Coast, he's described as a rapper, singer, and drummer. His big break came in 2015 when Dr. Dre was working on his album Compton, the soundtrack to the movie of the same name, and he just heard Anderson Paak in the studio working on some stuff and decided that, he was the guy to pull in with him and, really gave his career a jump start. And, it's kind of hard to come up under the shadow of Dr. Dre. You can look at, if anyone has listened or followed the career of the rapper The Game, that it's a mighty tall shadow to be under to come up with Dr. Dre, and a lot of people, have trouble, getting out from under that. The thing is about Anderson Paak, you may not think you've heard of him, but like I say, if you've listened to rap or, any rap, hip hop, R&B type stuff since 2015, you've heard Anderson Paak. I guarantee it. You've heard him on songs with, like I said, he's worked with Dr. Dre, but you've also heard him with Justin Timberlake, The Game, Chance the Rapper, Schoolboy Q. And by the way, if you guys aren't familiar with Schoolboy Q and you haven't heard the album Blank Face, you really need to change that. Blank Face is available for free with your library card through our Hoopla service. You can look in the comments for that, and I'll put a direct link to that. But you've also heard him with Tribe Called Quest. He was on their comeback album, and he has appeared with Talib Kweli and the most recent Nas album that just came out. So you've heard Anderson Paak, even if you haven't. So why are we talking about Oxnard? we're obviously going to get into it with our guests about the full details of Oxnard, but it came out on November 16th in 2018 on 12 Tone Music and Aftermath Entertainment Records, which Aftermath is Dr. Dre's record label. And you know what? The reviews weren't exactly terrible, but it was more fans of Anderson Paak that seemed to have more of a problem with it. It was just like, they kind of felt like it didn't sound like an Anderson Paak album. This was his third album, if I'm not mistaken, and his other two were kind of, smoother, a little more on the R&B side, really flowing bass lines and lush arrangements. And this one's a little more harsh, and I think it took people off guard a little bit. As a matter of fact, when Anderson Paak started working on the album that would follow up Oxnard, that we're going to talk about tonight, one reviewer who had been talking to him said, don't worry, the next Anderson Paak record will sound like an Anderson Paak record. One of the really funny thing that came up, Anderson Paak's mother weighed into the debate about the album when the slightly negative reviews started coming in, and she said, and I quote, "For all those haters out there that said Anderson Paak lost his identity on the Oxnard album, this is what I have to say about it. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that Paak lost his identity in the Oxnard album. On the contrary, he presented a great diversity, and all the haters can take that to the bank." So Anderson Paak's mom showing up to defend her son. All right, and with that, we will go ahead and move on to the next section and start bringing in our guests. All right, so tonight we have two guests that I am very excited about. First, Ciara Cruder. Ciara freelances as a videographer and photographer and manages Mind the Method, a short documentary series that features independent music artists from the Cincinnati area. She loves the arts, hip-hop, oversized hoodies, and one of her future goals is to own and operate a community creative space for artists. Next, we'll bring on Jody Jones, aka GrandAce. Jody Jones is a 23-year-old figuring out his way around life. The University of Cincinnati graduate spends his free time doing freelance videography and making music. He feels his general purpose in life is to be a light for others, and he absolutely adores the singer Sade. And, I think it could easily be argued that Sade is not a singer, she is a force of nature and a national treasure, but that could be an entire episode in and of itself. But with that, let's go ahead and bring on our guests for the night. Hey, Ciara, Jody, how you guys doing?
Well, and yourself?
I think I'm doing okay. I think I did pronounce the Sade right. I know that's a hot button issue in Cincinnati right now. But
no feathers are ruffled here.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Before we get into the issue at hand, the great debate, just a little bit, let's start with Ciara. Ciara, tell us a little bit more about Mind the Method.
Yeah, so what started as a passion project kind of turned into this whole movement that I didn't really expect to happen, but a lot of people in the music community really like what I do, like how I give the opportunity to give them the platform to share their stories where they probably couldn't anywhere else. And it's just so much fun to do, and you get to discover so much new music in the city, meet awesome people. Yeah, I just love it,
I learned of so much new music just from sampling through all the videos. And speaking of which, where can people go to check those out?
Yeah, you can see all the episodes on the website, mindthemethod.net, and also on YouTube. Just type in Mind the Method, and we have our own YouTube channel too.
All right. Highly recommended. So moving on to Jody, or aka GrandAce. Now, I know you have a videography background too, but we already covered that topic with Ciara. Yep. So I want to talk about your music, which is great. So tell us a little bit about just what you do. What are you going for with your music?
Yeah, I like to say that I create alternative hip hop, and I make it as a form of therapy for myself, and also just as a way so I can connect with other human beings. It's pretty much, I don't know, I feel like everybody has their ways of communication, and I feel like mine is most efficient through music, as I feel like there's so much nuance and rhythms and chords and different inflections and deliveries that can really breathe. I feel like it's a universal language. You know, you don't have to speak the same language to be able to understand what somebody is getting across through music. And I just love it. It just makes me really happy and brings me joy. And I'm always thinking to myself, it's like a puzzle. I'm like, how can I approach this musically in a way where people will understand what I'm going for, but also in a way that has my own organic touch to it, to where you recognize that's me.
That's a very, very tricky balance, though. And, you know, I think from listening to it, you do a really good job, which everyone's going to hear because I'm going to play a clip in a second. Nice. But I always hate this. It's very, very reductive to ask this question. But for people who have never heard your music, what would you say, like, for fans of? If you're a fan of blah, 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 you would like my music.
I'd say if you're a fan of, say, Outkast or Childish Gambino or Chance the Rapper, then you'll probably gravitate towards my music.
All right. Well, let's see if that's actually the case when we play a clip. We're going to do that now. We're going to play a clip from Ultraviolet Paradise, which, if I'm not mistaken, didn't that come out? Wasn't it just October 6th when that came out?
Yes, it was.
All right. So let's take a quick listen.
Run it up big, I see you thriving, man. I'm living this my best, very best. You could be my guest, handing you my outer shell. These stories from my best friend. I'm the type to reach for higher ground. I have my leverage. This here is the perfect image of my peace and confidence. Paradise, more on this. Come take me out tonight. Hold it in, excitement overwhelms. Through it all, the journey makes me spin. Through it all.
All right. Yeah, it's great. Everyone should go check it out. And where can they do that?
Thank you. You can find me on all major streaming platforms at GrandAce, and you can find me on all social media networks social media platforms at the GrandAce.
And you can also find him at Bandcamp, which is, I think, the most underrated music site, and you can throw a couple bucks his way for all the great music that.
Hey, anything is most appreciated this way.
All right, so I've got a really slick transition that I've been really planning on here, so I'm really proud of this. So just go with me on this for a second. So, Jody, on your full profile or your full bio on your website, you say that you kind of got the music bug or started to make your own when you were introduced to the software Ableton Live. Now, tell everybody who's watching what is Ableton Live. Just a quick intro of what Ableton Live is.
All right, Ableton Live is the greatest workstation for being able to create music digitally.
Mm-hmm. So it lets you make beats, it lets you make loops. It basically it unlocks the world of music for you. So it was kind of addicting. You saw that you didn't have to wait for other people to make music. You can make your own. You don't have to you can make what's in your head, right?
It's just, exactly. You got it.
Right. Now, furthermore, when you're making your own music on Ableton Live or anywhere, you don't have to have anybody's input. You can do whatever you want. It's totally up to you. So no one is editing you and suggesting that you make different decisions or cut things out, which brings us to the album Oxnard by Anderson Paak.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So, before kind of went into a little bit of a background about the album and about Anderson Paak. So I've got a couple of questions about your guys' journey with Anderson Paak. So I'm going to go back and forth between the two of you. Since Jody, you picked this album, full disclosure to everybody watching, Jody is a fan of the album.
Yes.
Ciara, you're kind of half and half?
Half and half, back and forth. A little more on the side.
I'm probably a little closer to Ciara, but I think my reasonings are... Well, it's not because I'm going to trash it. So let's start with Jody. All right, so let's go back before Oxnard. Jody, what was your introduction to Anderson Paak?
My introduction to him was... I actually didn't realize that I knew of him when I did find out about him.
Same for me, yeah.
Yeah, he was originally Breezy Lovejoy, and then later on after Malibu, after his collaboration with Knowledge, I found out that they were the same person. and I kind of had my Donald Glover Gambino moment with him, and I was like, oh, that's him. Oh, right, okay. So I had just kind of been following him since the Malibu days, and then I went back and saw that was him. But yeah, it kind of started there, and then I really got to see what he was like more as a person, and really just fell in love with the type of energy he provided.
Later. Okay, so Ciara, I'm going to throw it back to you for a second because I think I picked up on a couple of things. So originally I was going to ask Jody this, but I'm going to go over to you. So what was the first thing you heard from this album?
The first thing I heard was Tense, the single. Yeah,
okay.
that was the very first thing I heard.
Now, when was the first time that you heard the full album?
The first time I heard the full album, it was definitely a couple months later after it dropped. And I remember distinctly listening to it while I was working at the library. I was in the stacks with my headphones in, and I was like, I'm gonna just listen to the whole album because it was on my iPod. So I was like, let's do it. So I started from track 1, and like listened to it all the way through. I finished my job, and I was just kind of standing there, kind of reflect on it.
yeah.
But yeah, that was the very first time I like listened to it all the way through when I was at work.
Okay, so you got through it that once. You're thinking about it. You had to stop and go, I need to process my feelings about this a little bit. Did you kind of push it aside for a little while, or did you fight with it a little more?
So when I first listened to it, my initial reaction was like, yeah, I like it because I like Anderson Paak and I like everything that he puts out. And I think I was just excited that he was putting out new music. And then I think I like gave it a rest for like a day or two, and then I went back to it and listened to it all the way through, like at least 2 or 3 more times. And then that's when I really start to like really form like an actual opinion, not just I love Anderson Paak. And yeah, that's when I really started. I was like, you know what?
Okay.
You know what?
Right. And I I don't know what just yet, so I'm hoping you two can help me get to what is. Well, okay, I'm going to circle back to Ciara for something that she said under her breath a second ago. Hands in the pot, Dr. Dre, who, I mean, you hate to say he made his career, but I guess he kind of helped get Anderson Paak's name out there when Anderson Paak jumped on the album, The Chronic. Or not The Chronic, the Compton, the soundtrack, the Compton soundtrack. And can you say no to Dr. Dre? Like if he's in the studio with you and he's like, let me mix your album and let me master it for you, and I think you should do this. Like, when are you comfortable enough to say, no, Dr. Dre, I would like to do this instead? Now, Ciara, do you think, since you coughed under your breath for that, do you think, would you be interested in hearing this album without Dr. Dre's influence?
I would, because it's just, I mean, for me personally, Dr. Dre is like hit or miss. He's great. He has a long rep and it's very established and it's well worth all of the accomplishments that he made and everything. Like he deserves everything, but sometimes it's hit or miss. And
I kind of
sometimes,
have to agree,
yeah, and like I feel like they're 2 different styles, and like they tried to make it work under one project, and it was a great like attempt, but I don't think it was really. I don't think it helped Anderson Paak at more than I thought, more than probably what he wanted it to. I think it was just kind of like an attempt that kind of just, it just kind of did what it did.
What do you guys think about all the guest spots on the album? So let's go with Jody. What's your favorite, if you have one, a favorite guest spot on the album?
Yes. Let me see, because I took notes.
Whoa.
Okay.
Hey now.
Okay, so I wish I would have gotten a name, but the guest that's on Smile, for me, like that is
Sonia Elise.
Yes, Sonia Elise for me is an absolute high note, just because I feel like she interacted with Anderson really well, and just for the song that he picked her to be on, she the harmonies were so rich, and combining with the chords and the bass line of the song, I felt like she didn't detract from what Anderson was providing, and no one person overpowered each other, which is a very easy thing to happen when you have a feature. And that, like for her, for me, that was the standout feature on the project.
Yeah, That was a really, really good one. Ciara, did you happen to have one that jumped out at you, or?
I did. I liked that feature, but excuse me. I think my favorite though was on Sweet Chick with BJ the Chicago Kid. Mostly because like I personally love BJ the Chicago Kid. His vocals are amazing, and like him and Anderson Paak, they just gelled so well together. And on that song, I mean, it's a funny, unique song, but it was still great. Like the chorus was clutch. That's like my favorite feature, I think. Yeah,
I thought
but
that one
most
was...
of the features. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that one was interesting to me. It was reminiscent, unless I'm totally getting the song. First of all, it was interesting because that was actually a bonus track. That wasn't an actual song on the album. But I was getting vibes of like, was it Jay-Z's Girls, where it's just each verse is it was like a Girls 2018, and so okay, those I agree. Those were both really good spots. Now, I think this, in a way, is a more interesting question, at least from my listening of the album. Let's go back to Jody on this one. Were there any guest spots that you were just like, you didn't feel like it worked for any reason? Or if you need to think about it, does Ciara want to jump in first? Because she's kind of like jumping back and forth.
I know you have one.
Dr. Dre.
Oh, I forgot. Masa Munsa. I would definitely agree with her on that one.
That's like the one where I was just like, oh no.
I didn't even know that was Dr. Dre.
That's what I said. That's exactly what I said. I had no idea that was Dr. Dre. And I went back and I looked it up and I'm looking at the track list and I'm like, where? Are you serious?
And it's like the dialect that that he rapped to. I'm like, that's not your. I didn't think that was your voice when you rap. Like listening to your other music, did you gain an accent and just the song itself
and higher pitched? He had the accent and he was rapping higher pitched. Which now this is going to take me into a totally different tangent that I'm going to go on about the guest spots. I think. And here's how I'm going to try to phrase this as a compliment instead of an insult. I would have loved to hear this album with little or no guest spots. Okay. Not from like like singing the hooks, that's fine. It's the rapping guest spots that I was just like, I think Tense is a great song. I really like that. I mean, you can't deny that's a great song. But Anderson Paak's voice and Kendrick Lamar's voice are so similar to me, like the cadence and the pitch that they're rapping at. I was like, it was so similar. It almost didn't seem like a guest spot. I don't know. That may be a little bit far. And I would have liked to have heard more rappers with lower voices to complement his. Like, on Malibu, like, I love The Game anyway. But it was really cool to hear his, lower, gruffer voice on this. And then like even Q-Tip on one of the tracks toward the end. Great. Yeah. Love Q-Tip. But it's that kind of high-pitched thing. And I'm like, I need more contrast, or let Anderson Paak just go totally wild and have his own solo album. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking the guest spots.
Yeah. So I think it was, to me, it felt like a tag team where the music would almost kind of, depending, because like there were certain songs to where I felt like it mattered for the song, kind of like the Q-Tip one or the Kendrick one. But there were other ones where it felt like, all right, now bring in my friend. And then like the music kind of like sustained, and then the friend got to showcase themselves. And then the music resumed after they finished their feature. Then they went back with the natural pacing of the song.
The number one for that one for me was the Pusha T verse.
Yeah.
And
I think I might have had to.
Brother's Keeper.
I wasn't really feeling that one.
So are you a Pusha T fan in general, or clips or anything?
Yes, okay. I usually am.
Yeah, it just felt a little forced.
Oh my goodness, yes. And by the way, for anyone who's watching, if you, it's a few years back, if you haven't listened to the two main clips albums, Lord Willin' and Hell Hath No Fury, you need to fix that and go back and listen to that. But I was like, it not only was his, like you said, the music changed up. Like, I don't know what the song was about, but he jumps in and decides to start rapping about Clips getting back together or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
So,
yeah, I want to know too, but not right now. So I was a little confused by that.
It was weird because like I was really excited with all the features because like yo, I like all these artists like
Yeah.
you know on their own right, but then it's just like when they were on the project, it was just more like I don't know, felt like Anderson Paak was kind of being forced to mesh with them in a way. More so, I felt it mostly on Trippy with J. Cole because it sounded like it could have been just a J. Cole song with Anderson Paak on the hook, and that would have been like fine, but it was Pack's song with a J. Cole feat. I don't know. It just felt weird.
And for me, the song felt needlessly long.
Yes.
It felt like the highway portion of a road trip. And I was just like, oh, we're still here. All right.
But I mean, on paper, shouldn't a J. Cole and Anderson Paak album or track be phenomenal? Yeah,
sure.
So I'm like you. I was really excited to hear that one. That's funny. A highway. I am so gonna use that when I describe albums. That is absolutely great. You mentioned the music a second ago, and the music behind it. Like, say what you will about the guest verses. Say what you will about lyrical content being all over the place. One of the other criticisms I read was that some songs didn't seem like they were about anything. Some songs seemed like they were about a million things. The music behind it is composed phenomenally. And I would, not that I don't want to hear the vocals at all, but I would totally listen to an instrumental version of this album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's what originally told me that I liked the album. So when I listen, the first couple listens is always like I kind of close off my mind and I'm just feeling the music. So I'm like, is the music reaching my heart? Is it reaching who I am?
Right.
Which is why I didn't actually like the songs that I didn't like. They might have been great as far as the message goes, but the music that was given to me, which were usually like Dr. Dre heavy influence, I was like, Yeah. But it was when I feel like the album really came into its own when there were more horns and there were lush string sections and there were flutes and woodwinds in the back. Like, I feel like that's when the album was coming alive and when the percussion was really organic. And you could just feel the life in the players and the session musicians. And you could tell that they were probably just having a beautiful vibe session when it was being made. Like, I feel like you feel that in the album.
All right. So, Jody, none of us here tonight, me, Ciara, we don't hate the album. I mean, I will come back and listen to this album again. It's not going to be my favorite thing. I definitely have some things that I would, I'm kind of curious about why they did what they did. Let's say someone just hates it. No, I listened to it once. I'm not going to listen to it again. What would you tell them? Is there a certain song you'd say to dive, other than Tense, which was the first single? Is there another song that you would recommend they dive into? Or how do you get yourself into the headspace to enjoy Oxnard?
Yeah, I would tell them to just approach it musically and then also think of it as its own standalone thing from Malibu. Because I was really excited about the album. For me, I was actually more so surprised when I saw everybody else not liking it as far as my friends. And I actually feel like Anderson got his redemption with his follow-up album, Ventura, because I feel like that's the album everybody was waiting for and everything. And I feel like that there's your continuation to Malibu. That's beautiful. But when you come back to Oxnard, I feel like that's when you're just approaching it from a separate headspace. And you're just like, okay, just try to think about where he was going for it as if this is a demonstration of like a lot of LA talent and just the more, I want to say pop friendly side of Anderson Paak. Because, he has different lanes that he likes to operate in. Sure. And while it's not as far pop as like a bubbling, it's definitely not like
pop hip hop type.
Yeah, it's definitely like, that pop hip hop blend. I think like this is that album. Because it's definitely not like his collaboration with Smokey Robinson. So I feel like you have those three lanes of Anderson Paak, and this is like nicely in the middle.
Okay. Yeah. Well, now, Ciara, it's almost trickier in some ways. Like, if you yourself being, how would you steer someone from hating it to just getting to be able to, what's the word? I don't know, live with it, like be okay with it. Like, what are your, how do you exist in the world with this album? What got you to the point of just being like, instead of, bleh?
Okay, so I do this thing where when a new album comes out, I put the whole thing on my iPod, and then as time goes on, if I like the song, it stays. But if some songs I don't really care for, they just end up being deleted, right? So out of the whole album, only like 3 or 4 songs stayed, and and there's something about those 3 or 4 songs I think are like the gems, right? That really like, it makes me not forget about the album completely.
Yeah.
Like the song will come up and I'll be like, oh, you know what? That was on that Oxnard album, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
it makes me think about, how even even if I wasn't satisfied with the whole thing, there's still like those little nuggets in there that are like, that actually was pretty good. So like I would say just like find that nugget, because
Yeah.
then the nugget will remind you of like the bigger thing, and then do what you will with the bigger thing, but it'll put it in your mind still, and like yeah, that was something that happened, so it existed.
Right. I'm really glad you guys picked this album. I'm really glad that you decided to give me some of your time tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Thank you
us.
for having
Yeah.
us.
Just really quick again, Ciara, where can people go to learn more about just everything that you do?
Oh man. Okay,
So
so
many things.
on the spot, so many things. Okay, so
Pick
Instagram.
2. No, I'm kidding.
So Instagram, Ciara Cruder, Mind the Method, mindthemethod.net, but also on Instagram too, @ mind the M. And
Yes.
yeah, YouTube.
YouTube. All right, Jody, your turn. Go.
And you can find me at, I'm just going to promote the music aspects. You
Yeah,
can
sure.
find me online at all major streaming platforms at GrandAce. You can find me on Bandcamp at GrandAce. And you can find me on all social medias at the THEE GrandAce.
All right. Once again, thank you guys so much for your time. Maybe we can do this again with another album. And,
I'd love to. Yes.
You guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Bye.
All right, thank you so much for joining us tonight for My Favorite Album is Terrible. Thank you so much to Ciara Cruder and Jody Jones, aka GrandAce. Thank you so much for your time on that. Again, make sure you look in the comments for everything that we talked about tonight, any tangent that we went on. I'll make sure that I put those albums, links to those in there for you to check out with your Cincinnati Public Library card. Also in the comments section, we will unveil which album we are going to be talking about 2 Thursdays from now at 8 o'clock. So check that out to figure out the big unveiling there. And again, in the comments section, if you enjoyed tonight's show, give us a like, give us a share. Help us get the word out. I really want people, like I say, as I said at the very beginning, this will be much more fun when we get people jumping in and we're all going back and forth about the albums. If you have an album you think we should talk about, by all means, put that in the comments section. I would love to take viewer suggestions and just kind of, get things going that way. All right, once again, thank you so much for your time, and we will see you 2 Thursdays from now at 8 o'clock. Thanks, guys.